Lee County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1. Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Charlie Pryor from Calvary Cathedral International Church, Fort Worth. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Honorable County Judge and Commissioners, thank you for invoking God's blessings on this court. Let us pray. Father, I ask you today to bless this court. I ask you to bless the county judge, the commissioners, and all those that work with them. I ask you to give them wisdom and understanding of their times to run the business of Tarrant County. I ask you to show them what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Father, I pray that you provide the funds to do what needs to be done in Tarrant County, and I speak the peace of God over this court, and I ask it all in the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Never seen the whole thing before.
I know.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. Appreciate you coming out today. Mr. Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have two announcements for you this morning. The first one is on the auditor section under 9B1. We have placed in your red folder a revised court communication. This is the same communication that was originally in your book. I think we have the judge's response so that we have attached to that court communication, so you have a full document there. Also, under purchasing, item 9J1. This is bid number 2010-081 for the sale of paper. We have a new revised court communication which shows you the results of that bid. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of June the 1st.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we have a couple of proclamations. I would mention that Commissioner Brooks, there is a Texas Department of Criminal Justice meeting in Galveston today, and he chairs one of the working groups there on the reentry program, and so he is in Galveston doing the state's business today. But he did have a couple of proclamation and a resolution, and I would move the approval of items 6A and B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve items 6A and B. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we have a public hearing. Tricia, come on down.
About the consent agenda.
Nah, I didn't want to do the consent agenda yet.
Okay.
Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Tricia.
Good morning. We're requesting that the Commissioners Court conduct a public hearing to consider Amendment Number 3 to PY year 2008 to the Consolidated Action Plan. What we're proposing to do on our CDBG-R, which is stimulus funding for the CDBG program, we let 8 public works projects. We had $51,000 left over because of the low bids. We're requesting to reallocate that to Meals on Wheels to undertake minor repairs on their clients' homes, to provide access, also to provide air conditioning to a lot of the homes that do not have it. So today we're requesting that you receive public input and then to close the public hearing, and we will submit the request to HUD.
This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing at this time and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak to this matter. There appearing none, then I'll close the public hearing and we will have action in the future.
There's no action required. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have two additional items for you this morning. The first, we're requesting that the Court approve project addendum for the implementation and enhancement of JCMS, which was entered into by Bexar, Dallas, Tarrant counties collectively, and the Juvenile Probation Commission and CUC. We'd like to say that this particular program is one that we've been working on for a while now, and it looks like we're coming to the conclusion of at least the first iteration where we're going to implement, and we're requesting your approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Your Honor, if I might just make a comment on that. We were in, there's been a lot of people that have been involved with JCMS, and obviously Commissioner Van Ravensway has chaired that oversight committee. Randy Turner with Juvenile has played an active role. He's on the oversight committee. Steve Smith, Mark O'Neill, Charles Gray was here. They've all led those efforts. I guess Charles is still here. There you are, Charles. We were in Houston the other day, and I've been involved in this thing for about 3 years now. But we had 4 or 5 different counties that were looking at this program. And it was really the first time that at least I got to see the thing from start to finish. And I can't tell you how impressed I am as far as how good that program is. And listening to the reaction from those other counties who all want to participate and buy in, which means that our county will will be getting money back from what we spent on this. They were very, very excited about the program. So all of those individuals, Mr. Van Ravensway's leadership, they've done a job well done on this thing. So.
You know, I'd just like to follow up, basically saying the same thing. It's been really a groundbreaking opportunity to see multiple counties working together on one effort and it coming to complete fruition. And not only that, but to have the state as a partner and come to the table not only wanting but bringing money as well. So it has been a very successful endeavor, and many people made it successful because we did have some bumps along the way. But it worked, and I think it's just the beginning of many good things to come.
Members of the Court, if we could go to item number 2.
We did.
We're requesting that the Court approve a resolution relating to the issuance of tax-exempt Series 2010 hospital revenue bonds by the Tarrant County Cultural Education Facilities Finance Corp., Scott & White Healthcare, an amount not to exceed $400 million. What these funds are going to be utilized for, it's refinancing a certain debt that the borrower has outstanding, also to make improvements in their facilities, which are located in Temple, College Station, Round Rock, and the Austin area. As I said, this is a request from the Cultural Education Facilities Corp. There is no obligation to the county. This action is merely there to satisfy certain requirements of the Internal Revenue Code.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Tidwell.
Good morning. This morning, we're going to ask that you receive and file the auditor's report on JP1. You received a response this morning in your folders, Mr. Manny has pointed out. We had requested this response as part of our audit. It was provided to Mr. Manius directly this morning. I've not had time to research or review it. At the surface level, I would say there are several things in there I take exception to, but there's no need of going into those at this point. The point is that we're working to try to help the JP. We have been and will continue to make sure that their reconciliations are reconciled. And at this point in time, we appreciate their efforts and hope that they'll continue to work with us. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
And I would just, want you to continue to work toward getting, especially those reconcilements, taken care of.
I'm not looking at this right, but it seems that this was a problem and a concern when Judge Swearengin took office and evidently was not resolved initially.
Well, from our perspective, it was resolved, and we had several discussions with the JP in regards to that we couldn't say that it all related to previous administration. We had an amount that was remitted to the county. We went over at the end of December before a new elected officer takes the chair to make sure that we know where we are. We've continued to work with him. The amount of money was transferred. Reconciliations were repeatedly, though, then sent to my office after that were not reconciled. My staff corrected them and sent them back. At different times, we've spent different levels of effort to train the judge's staff. But the bottom line, when we came in this time, was that we still had reconciliations that were not accurate. We were not reconciled. And we needed to get those cleaned up. We've now spent probably 12 hours in the last month of my staff working with his staff again, and we feel that as of today we're where we need to be. But no, I can't say that all this is related to a prior. Some of it was, but some of it occurred, in my opinion, since January of 2007.
I just read his letter, and obviously it just came.
Yeah, it just came.
So, are we going to accept this?
Yes,
Or
we'll
should we not?
vote to receive and file it. It doesn't mean that we're
Agreeing.
agreeing, it just means that we're receiving.
And the auditor did state that there were exceptions that she has to what has been stated.
But I don't think it does any good. I mean, I'm not coming from a place where we need to have any sort of discussion about he said, she said. That doesn't serve any of us well. We're trying to work with the judge. Hopefully the judge is going to continue to try to work with us. And if he wants to take exception to things I've said, that's his opinion, that's his prerogative. I obviously don't agree with him. I don't agree with some of the things he put in his response. But he didn't have the courtesy even to provide me the response, as all elected officials do. We audit everyone and treat them the same as best we can. We audit them, we give them 2 weeks or longer, but usually 2 weeks to respond. We've had a really difficult time getting a response out of the judge. I know he's busy, but aren't we all? And if everyone else can meet the 10 to 14 business working days, why could he not? And then he sends his response over this morning at 9:45 to Mr. Manius and not to me. So I don't want to go there with his response other than to say I take exception to some of the things that he said.
Do we have a motion?
No, we do not.
I move to receive and file.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our final item this morning is to request the Commissioners Court receive and file the Tarrant County financial statements for the 7 months ended April 30th, 2010. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Tidwell. Mr. Wright? Ms. Glenn?
Good morning. We have 2 items for the court this morning. The first item, we're asking the court to receive and file the personnel agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item, we're asking the court to approve what we're calling departmental reorganizations for juvenile services, precinct 1, and probate courts 1 and 2. You have a communique with some information and some org charts attached, and so I think to make this as easy as possible to go through, I'll make a couple of comments and then we'll direct you to various documents. In the last several years, the court has asked that when we go through the budget process, that if departments are submitting reorganizations, that the court wants to hear about those. And just to remind the court, typically when we talk about reorganizations, we're talking about situations where perhaps a department is proposing the movement of positions that are in one reporting area to a different area, where there's going to be significant change in how those jobs, who they report to, and in some cases even the functions of the position. So we're looking at fairly significant changes when we talk about reorganizations. So if you take a look first with me at Juvenile Services, and I'm looking at the page following the court communique, you'll see that Juvenile Services is asking that one of their institutional probation officers actually, for the next fiscal year, effective 10/1, be made into, for lack of a better term, an operations manager. And what they are getting at with this, or what they're trying to get at, is that currently, and if you take a look at your first org chart, it says Juvenile Services Current.
Okay.
See that? So you'll see, and hopefully yours is in color, because mine's in color, you'll see sprinkled throughout the detention unit several positions that are called Control Central Officer. The writing's pretty little, but I think that's the title. They're in pink on my sheet. And so you'll see that they're sprinkled throughout the detention area and report to different people within that, or different positions within that unit. What Juvenile Services is proposing, if you'll flip to the next page, it says Juvenile, or the next chart, Juvenile Services proposed, effective 10/1. You see now all of those little pink boxes would actually report to this operations manager. Now, Juvenile Services is not asking for a change in those little positions in the pink box. What they're asking is that the green box that you see that says vacant, they're wanting to take a juvenile probation officer position and actually reclass that into that operations position.
And that position is currently one of the pink vacant positions?
It's currently a juvenile probation officer position. It's not pink or green.
Okay.
And if I go back to the previous page, the Juvenile Services Current, there is one of those positions that's up there at the very top.
Yes. But you notice
But
it's
they're all
the same pay
16s,
grade.
right?
They're all 16s. And you see the little 16 in the left
Right.
bottom corner of the box?
Okay.
So they're just sort of sprinkled throughout. And what Juvenile Services their position is that the department would be better served if those positions actually reported to one position as opposed to several positions throughout detention.
No upgrades involved.
Potentially the probation officer position that they would reclass to the operations manager position could and probably would
That's the
result.
aqua on the next page.
That's the aqua, or mine looks green.
That
But
currently does not exist.
And you're
in
showing
that-
us-
so they would just take one of the existing positions that has an incumbent. I don't believe they have any vacant. Well, I don't think we're talking about a vacancy, but they would take an existing pay grade 18 position if the court gives its blessing, and actually submit it to the Job Evaluation Committee as an operations manager, again, with the primary responsibility being to have all of those little pink boxes actually report to the operations manager.
And have they submitted a reclass?
We do have that paperwork? Yes. Angie's shaking her head, yes. And again, typically departments, when they're going through the budget process, any changes like this, reclasses, reorgs, they're all submitted during the budget process. So yes, we would
Now,
have
you've got
that
that
document.
tentatively, that aqua box, I think tentatively set for 73. Is that what you're?
I can't tell if it's a 1 or a 3.
73.
Okay.
Angie's telling me it's a match. So that's the first one, and I felt like you could see that, you understand that a little bit better using the little boxes and the charts. The next two, actually, Precinct 1 and then Probate Courts 1 and 2, technically they're not really reorgs. We brought these to you because it's been the court's position that you want the precinct, positions in your precincts to look somewhat the same. They're not identical today. And then the Probate Courts 1 and 2, the court's position has been the same. You want those to look similar. Well, the truth is they're not really similar today. And so we are looking at making some additional changes, or Precinct 1 and the probate courts are proposing some additional changes. Let's start with Precinct 1. Precinct 1 currently has a traffic control technician, which is a pay grade 29. What Precinct 1 is wanting to do is actually combine the responsibilities of that position, traffic control technician, and the responsibilities or duties of the service and compliance coordinator, which is also in Precinct 1, actually combine those responsibilities and create one position rather than have two separate positions, and call that position, and you'll see under your proposed title, Traffic Compliance / Quality Control Technician. So that's what the Commissioner has asked for. This position would be responsible, as is outlined in your document, for ensuring compliance with TCEQ regs, for inspecting their precinct signs, and for inventory control. So that's a request from Precinct 1.
I need to be sure I'm grasping something here. I'm sure it's going to get me in trouble, but I'm going to check it anyway. Traffic control implies to me that that's somebody out there who is controlling traffic on the site. This is not what we're talking about with this person.
Well, what we're talking about is actually, combining that individual's responsibilities with the other position. And your question is this person currently doing that today? You know?
I guess my ultimate question is this person going to be out, are we talking about having an operator 3 that's actually out controlling traffic on a job site, and we're going to make that an
Like a
operator
flag
3?
person? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Did you hear the question, Ange?
You need to come up here.
Well, she's
Where's Crystal?
It's going to take her a minute.
She's on crutches.
Give her
Crystal's,
just
well,
a
wait a
minute.
minute. Before she comes up there, what about, Crystal, do you know kind of what we're talking about here?
Position is supposed to do. And I know it's not an operator 3 operating as a, you said operating as a person who's a parts expediter. It's taking the parts expediter position and the traffic control position and putting them together, or the quality control, technician, and putting them together at a higher grade because it's combining both jobs and eliminating one. So they're not becoming an operator 3. They will be traffic compliance, quality control. It's going to include delivering parts. It's going to include looking at signs and making sure those are right. It's going to include responding to constituent complaints. So it is a comprehensive job with the person moving around. And we thought putting those two together, because they already are
They're not going to be
doing
a
some of those
flagman.
jobs.
They're not going to be a flagman on the job.
No, they're not going to be just a flagman on the job.
They're not going to be just a flagman, but are they going to?
I think they could be. I think it's listed as one of the duties that they could be helping with flagging. But that is not. If you look at the percentages, that is not where we expect them to spend most of their time at all. As a matter of fact, 45% of the time, if I'm looking at the right one, they will be more of the time delivering parts, making sure signs and markings are correct, responding to the needs of the different crews and going back and forth. Flagging is not one of the major percentages, as I recall. I just can't find the percentage sheet. So no.
Is there 2 people doing those jobs?
No. We had one open and one person. Isn't that right? And now we're going to let one position go away and combine the 2 jobs so that that person who has already started to take on some of those duties can get credit for that. Because they've really been doing both jobs.
You're going to drop one person from your organization?
From our TO, yes, sir. Have it on record.
And then a 29 is that the equivalent of an operator 3?
I never even looked at this job as where it fell under operators because he's not. So
I'm showing operator 3 as a 28. That's right. 3 is a 28, a 4 is a 29.
And you said you were trying to make the positions look more similar or comparable to from one precinct to another? Is that, did I hear that?
Well, my statement early on was that the court's position in the past has been that in some areas in your precincts, precincts 1 through 4, is one of those areas where you really have tried to hold the line so that all of your precincts look very similar, i.e., have the same positions, same pay grades, same responsibilities. And of course, over time, we've sort of drifted away from that, and this would be just one additional example of how we would.
Drifting away.
Drifting away. And again, they're not identical today, so I don't want to leave the impression that they are. They are not. But you guys have been pretty clear that when you get requests like this, that you want to have some time to discuss those
Tina, what's the
requests.
salary structure go from? what-
Well, we won't know that, Commissioner, until the position actually goes to the Job Evaluation Committee. It has not been graded yet. So anytime that we look at changing the responsibilities of a position, if we're looking at significant changes, that information goes to the Job Evaluation Committee, and the jobs are graded. So I don't have that answer at this point.
Do you have a rough idea?
I don't have a rough idea. Have you looked at this, Ange?
The hope is that the one position is
Is it 28 and one's a 29? I guess they want it to be a 20,
28 combined into
29. But again, that's
Back to my question. What's the difference between a 28 and a 29?
in terms of
Requirements, job
Dollars.
requirements,
Dollars.
money.
Dollars.
I don't know that right off the top of my head. Typically, when you're looking at a promotion, you're looking at least in today's world, at least a 10% increase in pay.
Well, but you wouldn't be,
But
okay, let's
said no
drop back. I
promotion.
mean, you said right now we've got a 29 and a 28. We're looking at combining that jobs. One of those people are going to go away. I'm assuming there's probably a vacancy there.
there is a vacancy.
Is the vacancy in the 28 or in the 29?
Like it's the 28.
So in effect, what you're doing is you're,
It's the 29.
29.
The vacancy
vacancies
is
is
the 29.
So if you give up that position and then you combine the responsibilities of the 29 with the responsibilities of the 28, then you're trying to determine, it still goes in all likelihood, it will come out as a 29. You'll end up losing a 28 in an organizational chart.
But again, we
But the
don't,
person that's in the 28 may end up staying at 28 or going to a 29, depending on what job evaluation comes up
Yeah.
with. If they were to go to a 29, under what we talked about
last week.
last week, that person would be looked at as it would either be a 5% or it would be higher end, which is minimum plus 10, whichever is greater.
Right, because I wasn't here last week, but I know that there was going to be some discussion about actually changing our promotion policy. Today, that policy allows a department to give an employee a 10% raise over where they are currently, or they can take them to the higher end, which is minimum plus 10% in most cases.
Tina,
Yes.
again, back to my question.
Uh-huh.
Does anybody in the room have any idea what a 28 makes?
Yes, the 28
Thank you.
makes.
What does the 28 make?
makes $41,470 annually. That's the maximum salary. The 29 makes $47,486 max. So
that's-
that's $6,000 difference. Now, the deal is that, from where we're sitting here, is that they have a 28 and they have a 29. And they want to combine the functions into the 29 position and eliminate the 28 position. That's what we're seeing.
I'm sure that that's what Precinct 1 is wanting, but again, we don't second-guess the committee. I mean, we have a
So
committee
you're
for a
saying
reason.
the combination responsibilities will be reviewed now, and it could be either a 28 or a 29.
Correct. My guess is that the department's going to argue for a 29, not a 21, pardon me.
Well, you have
But
to-
again, we don't second-guess the committee. We allow the department, in this case Precinct 1, to make their case before the committee, ask questions, and then the committee actually evaluates the job.
How long has the 28 been vacant?
It's the 29 that's vacant.
It's a 29.
Or the
that's vacant.
29?
Gotta find out more
This
about
whole budget year?
Crystal's saying this entire budget year.
What?
The entire budget year.
So this 28 has been doing the 28 and 29's job for a year?
He got reclassed last year and moved into the 29, and we never filled the 28.
I don't know if you heard that, Commissioner. She's saying that the incumbent was actually reclassified last year and was reclassified to, I believe she said, a 29, and
So the 28 is vacant.
Correct.
That's what we're saying. The 29 is currently filled, and the 28 is a vacant position. And that position apparently has been vacant for 7 months, at least 7 months.
She's saying the entire budget year it's been vacant. So that's the request from Precinct 1. If
So
we
is the
haven't-
request to upgrade the 28?
The request is
Eliminate it.
ultimately to eliminate one of the positions, Commissioner. They're wanting to take two positions,
And
that
leave the 29 alone?
combine the two, and then eliminate one
Well,
position.
so are they at, if the person, if the incumbent's already at 29, and they're adding responsibilities to it, the responsibilities might or might not be enough to change it from a 29 to something.
It could be, and that happens. That's not unusual.
Right. It depends upon the weight of the
Right.
new responsibilities.
So, and again, it depends upon what the committee comes back with. And I hear whispering behind me. Is that not
Okay.
right, Crystal?
Is what? It's correct. Okay.
No, we're just listening.
We're talking.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on then to probate courts 1 and 2. And again, this is not necessarily a reorganization, but again, just a sort of a deviation away from what the court's preference has been with regard to these probate courts. First, probate court 1. Actually, both probate courts have a probate auditor, which is a pay grade 71. Court 1 wants us to take a look, wants the committee, the Job Evaluation Committee, to take a look at their auditor position. It's my understanding that this position has been involved with financial audits relating to guardianship and dependent probates, and the court, probate court 1, is simply seeking clarification to ensure that the position gets credit for compliance audits in addition to financial audits. It's my understanding that the position has always actually performed those functions, but again, the court is wanting to clarify and make sure that all appropriate credit is given. In addition, this auditor oversees guardianship cases and actually is involved in training for guardians and their attorneys. So again, from probate court 1's perspective, they're wanting just to ensure that full credit is being given for all of the duties that the probate auditor currently has. Probate court, or probate court 2, their position is similar in that they want to ensure that their auditor gets proper recognition and compensation for their duties. However, they are actually requesting that their position be filled by an attorney. And so the requirements would clearly be a bit different. Probate court 2 is actually looking for an attorney. And they believe that that would best fit the needs of their court. And so if you look at your org charts, again, you'll see your probate court 1 current. You'll see the individual. It is an occupied position, pay grade 71. And then you'll see your proposed probate court 1, same little pink box. And again, that position would go to committee. And then you see your probate court 2 org chart, and their position apparently is vacant, their auditor position. And then under proposed, you see where the titles changed a bit. Where, again, they would be seeking an attorney to fill their position.
And that's a recent vacancy.
What?
She's saying that's a,
Just in case you ask, it is a recent vacancy.
so those are the requests that are before the court today. As we've discussed, if the court is comfortable with what is being requested by these various departments, the next step would be, of course, to have these positions go to the Job Evaluation Committee and allow the committee to evaluate these positions and assign an appropriate pay grade. And, of course, those would be effective 10/1.
I guess with regards to the probate courts, I would simply ask, have these positions been evaluated in the past?
The probate court, or the probate auditor position?
Yes.
Has that been evaluated? Do you know, Ann?
Well, but that's not what I asked. I mean, have the jobs changed since they were last evaluated?
Or Judge, I'd have to look to see when it was evaluated last. I don't know the answer to that question.
Because if they haven't changed, then why are we reevaluating them?
And typically when, she's wobbling, well, that's probably not a nice word to say. That's what I say in the
From an
office.
HR
Sorry.
standpoint,
I
I think
know,
we would get in
sorry.
trouble if we said
That's what
that
I
to
say
you.
behind closed doors.
Oh, that's,
It's just a joke.
Just keep digging that hole.
It's
You want us
just
to
a
give you a bigger
joke.
shovel?
Typically, when we go through the audit process, we first do what we call a paper audit. And so what we do is we take a look at what departments have submitted, and we compare it to what the current job descriptions look like. And oddly enough, sometimes we get two documents that look exactly the same. And clearly, those are kicked back because on paper, there aren't even any changes. Now, those documents that come to us where there are significant changes from what exists today and what the department is asking for, then we'll actually go out to those departments, conduct audits, talk to the incumbents in the position, if there are incumbents in those positions, talk to the individuals that supervise those positions so that we can get a better and a clearer idea about what the changes are. And so that's typically the process. I mean, we do look into requests that we get. And again, I don't know the answer to the last time that this position was looked at, but we can certainly find that out. And so I'll let Ann make whatever comments she likes.
Tina, just a quick comment. It doesn't look like either one of them have been looked at since we went to SAP, which was September 2003. That's the only benchmark I can provide sitting here.
The position was last evaluated, I know, sometime in the 90s. I can't tell you exactly the year, but it was the 90s. And what you'll see in the position descriptions now is a certain set of duties that does not reflect everything that those positions perform. So the reclass paperwork reflects all of the duties that they're performing that were not included when the last time that it was evaluated, many years ago.
Okay, so it sounds like that it might be appropriate. I guess that's, which kind of brings me around to another question, and that is, recently having gone through the process of writing a job description, it would have been my understanding that we should have had a job description written for every job or position within the county, and I don't think that's the case.
It's not the case.
And I guess I'm
Thank you, Ann.
a little concerned that that's not the case, and I would like to see us move in that direction. Because, I mean, I think that's what SAP, and I think that's what our whole system is, and would hope that that would happen.
And we are working on that, Judge, and of course, you and I had some conversations about that very fact in recent weeks. And I think in most cases, we do have job descriptions for positions. Since I've been here, which is a while now, we've had a couple of situations where we've gone to post a vacant position and have looked high and low for job descriptions and haven't been able to find them. My guess has been those have been jobs that were, had not been vacated in a while. And so we're actually going through a process of making sure that we do have job descriptions. And again, for the vast majority of our positions, we have job descriptions because periodically we post positions. So that is something that we're aware of and working on. And again, rarely do we run into a case where we don't have a job description, but there have been a handful of cases where we have not had job descriptions.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beecham?
I don't think so.
I think we just said go.
And there'll be more information coming
They'll now go to evaluation, and then we'll ultimately approve that.
during the budget process.
Well, this chart shows effective 10/1/10.
That would be the beginning of the new budget year.
Huh?
That would be the beginning of the new budget year.
Right.
But it hadn't gone through job evaluation yet, so we should be able to see it again.
If that's the case, we're going to see it again.
Yes or no?
I think we normally,
You'll see it as a budget issue. You'll see.
Positions go to the job evaluation committee, we actually bring those items back to you for approval.
correct. So,
Yes,
your
sir.
turn.
Thank you. Good morning. We have two items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for our bid number 2010-081, sale of recycled paper. Recommendation be toward the high bidder, Evergreen Fiber Sales, at the rate of $205 per ton.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Last item is another bid award recommendation for our bid number 2010-060. This is our annual contract for miscellaneous medical supplies and disposals for our health department. Recommendation will be to award on a per unit price basis, awarding the primary and secondary vendors meeting our specifications as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any appointments? Being none, then we'll move on to our claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Your Honor, we do not have any briefing items this morning.
The Commissioners Court will now recess from open meeting and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under sections 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code.
You didn't have any. You told me we didn't have any.
And I will remind you of is that June 23rd is Ranger Red Day. Please wear your red on that day. And also purchase tickets, and let's all go out to the ballpark on the 23rd. Having returned from closed session, we'll now address the following.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're requesting authorization for the District Attorney's Office to intervene on behalf of the county in a lawsuit filed in Maverick County. This is under item E1 under the District Attorney's Office.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Motion
Only on one subject.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Now, if you want to, I guess we can talk about it.
GK,
Yes.
I have a question for you.
Okay.